the second show. I know. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves. Hopefully we'll be around for 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 shows. We'll see. We're going to do our best. Thank you for joining us today. Today we are going to be, hey everyone, but today we are going to be working on, we're going to make some coasters. So first we're just going to go over everything. I will probably end up redoing the intro if more people show up, but that's okay. For those who are in here, today we're going to be making some coasters. So we're just going to be going over finding a design online, finding a PNG or JPEG, importing that into LightBurn. We're going to be using the masking function to turn it into a circular design, the same size as our wooden pieces here. And then we're going to be using the new gSender Edge, developed by our software engineering team. They made awesome adjustments. We'll be showing that off a little bit. We're going to be using the outline function that allows you to turn your laser on, the laser test function, and then actually go around the edge. So we won't actually even be marking your center point, right? The best way to, obviously the easiest and most intuitive way is to obviously mark your center point if you're using a circular piece like this, and then just put your center point in the center and then start it off that way, right? But we're going to be using the, can everybody hear? If you can hear us, send something in the chat. We just want to make sure the audio looks good on your end. So if the audio is good, you have no problem hearing us. Just type something in the chat. We'll take a look. We'll make sure the audio is good before we kind of dive deep into this. Awesome. Thank you, Alan. Hey, Gary. Hey, Bill. Thanks for joining us today. Awesome. Grant, Nicholas. Thank you. So yeah, like I said, so today we're going to be using the outline function actually to find our design. So we're going to actually be going around with the laser. Again, this is the new gSender Edge. Eventually this function will shift over to the main gSender software, but for now gSender Edge just has much better kind of use cases for the laser and some other things. But we'll go over that, and we'll be sharing the link to the blog, to the forum, where you can find the GitHub and actually download this if you don't already have gSender Edge. So we'll just be sharing that into the stream shortly, so you guys can check out what we're going to be using this time around. Yeah. Awesome. So we just posted that, the forum post. This goes over what is gSender Edge and what are the benefits. There's four major benefits, and a lot of it today we're going to be going over is just because it has better laser support, right? So before, when you were engraving an image on the regular gSender, it used to be kind of a blank image, and it would show you the outline but no real detail. Well, now it'll actually show you exactly what you're going to be engraving, and it looks really cool, looks really awesome. So I'm kind of excited to get into that. So again, we're going to be engraving the coaster. We're also going to be using some polyx oil for finishing it, because we want it to be good for heat and for the cold, and we want it to be able to kind of, so Nicholas asks, sorry, let me finish my thought. We want it to be able to kind of stand up to time, essentially, for your beverages and everything. Obviously, you guys are going to be using your own finish if you're following along with the project, or if you're working with something similar. But we kind of wanted to just go over that kind of process of taking an image and actually getting it engraved, because I know a lot of you guys design your own stuff. A lot of you guys have images in mind from just things that you would like to get done, and we'll be going over that workflow. We'll also just be finishing it, just so it's a kind of a complete project. Once it all dries, it's ready to go. It's going to be a coaster, good to go. So Nicholas asks, can both gSender version, standard and Edge, reside on the same PC? So I do believe that gSender Edge will essentially overwrite your current version of gSender. So essentially, it'll act like a gSender update, and it'll have Edge. So on mine, I only have one gSender. I had the regular one. I downloaded Edge, and now the same icon for gSender is now gSender version 1.2.0 Edge, right? So the second part of the project, if we have time for it, is we're going to be taking our 3mm wood that we were playing with last time, 3mm birch, and we're actually going to be trying to cut a circle in it, and actually do another coaster essentially. But this time we're going to be doing the cutting and the engraving on the one piece. So that's going to be our goal for that job, and we'll try to get through. We'll definitely be able to get through the regular coasters because there's no cutting involved, but we will try to also include that. So Alan asks, he just got the trial version of LightBurn, and it doesn't seem to connect to his long mill. Is that because I have to buy LightBurn to connect? No, you actually don't have to buy LightBurn. You can still connect using the trial. I'll share my screen here and take a look. What may be happening is that your controller might be trying to connect to gSender or any other machine interface softwares that you might have open. Essentially, whichever one is open first and connects first is going to be the one that it's connected to, and then all other softwares will essentially be unable to connect. So you want to make sure that you have all other softwares closed if you are using LightBurn as your machine interface. Again, you don't need to connect your long mill to LightBurn if you're only doing the design aspect. Right now, my long mill is connected to gSender, but we will still be doing designs in LightBurn. So that's kind of a sneak peek here. I'm going to delete that. And once we're ready to start, we're going to kind of start from scratch so we don't skip any crucial steps there. So again, you might just have to close whatever other softwares your long mill might be trying to connect to, gSender, anything like that, if you're trying to actually use LightBurn as a machine interface. If you're just trying to use it as a design software, you actually don't need to connect it to your long mill. You could just design, export the file, and then import it into gSender or whatever other machine interface you're using, like UGS or CNCGS. But we do recommend you use gSender. I think it's the best software out there currently for the long mill and other machines, other Gerbil-based machines. So definitely, if you're still having trouble, Alan, even with no other software connected other than LightBurn, then and you're actually trying to use LightBurn as a machine interface, just send in a ticket and we'll chop it up. We'll talk about it and we'll get you connected there. But again, if you are trying to connect to it, you're just going to want to go to the console. See, right now it's trying to connect to my long mill, but it can't because gSender has already connected to it. And if you don't have this console tab down here where it says cuts, layers, move console, again, you just want to go to the window tab up here at the top and then enable console here. So I just disabled it, but I'll use enable. So now it's down here. So Alan, if you're trying to use gSender to actually send your code, LightBurn does not need to connect. But if you're trying to use gSender, make sure you open up gSender before you open up LightBurn. Again, whichever software you open up first, LightBurn also has a machine interface. gSender is a machine interface. Whichever software you open up first is going to be the one your long mill connects to first. So if I open up LightBurn first and then open up gSender, I'm not going to be able to connect to gSender because it already connected to LightBurn. So you could try closing LightBurn, connecting to gSender, and then reopening LightBurn, and then you should be good. But again, if that doesn't work, just send me a ticket and we'll see what the issue is. But that's a pretty common issue for most people. So yeah, I think we are ready to start. Again, welcome to LaserBeam Live. This is show number 2. We're going to be making some coasters, so some circular engravings. So first, actually, I'm going to show off the page at which you can download gSender Edge. So this is on our CNC Labs forum. This is a post. We posted the link in the chat. So if you guys would like to, I'm just going to start it so that you guys have all good. Yeah. So you guys can keep, you guys can actually click on that link, and this is the page that I have up here. This is from the CNC Labs developer team. They released some awesome updates. So what's the difference between gSender Edge and regular gSender? gSender Edge has better laser support, so you can see the differences in the the actual visualization of your engraving, right? So you have a way better view of what's actually going to be happening with your laser versus the regular gSender. You have headless support, so now you're able to kind of put your you're able to connect to your software from a local network. So you could be in a different room, but because the software on one computer is on the same local network, you're going to be able to control and actually operate jobs from a different room in your house or wherever you're at, as long as you're on that local network. So we have custom visualizer themes. So you can make things look a lot cooler. I actually personally love the red. Shouts out to this CNC Labs software developer team. It looks awesome. But you can actually now customize things in terms of how your visualizer is going to look and how you'd like it to look. And number 4, new preferences and just other improvements. So custom decimal place throughout the UI. So now you can play with decimals. I actually ran into this last live stream where I tried to get 6. I think the focusing material was 6.2, and I can only input 6. Well, now we have custom decimal places. So you guys can check this post out. Again, we highlighted it in the chat. If you want to download it, just click on GitHub right here. Click the right software for you. So for me, it was Windows, and it was I have a 64-bit computer, so it was Windows 64. But if you guys can check out all the different stuff and download the right one for your computer. I personally am loving it, and I'm kind of excited to kind of dig deeper into all the cool stuff we have here. So again, thank you very much to the software engineering team. It looks awesome so far. We're going to be playing with the outlining tool when it comes to laser, which is something that was updated on gSender Edge. Eventually, some of these features will make it to the regular gSender, but again, today we're going to be using gSender Edge. So we are back at LightBurn. So last time we went over how to, enable the tabs you need. So cut and layers, that's where we're going to be able to change the power settings of different lines, different engravings, different functions that we want the laser to have. Then we had the move function. That's if you want to use LightBurn as your machine interface. You have a very simple menu here where you can move the long mill, and you can set your origin, all the fun stuff, just not as pretty as gSender. Here's your console, in which you will be able to see if your long mill is connected. So again, mine is not connected because it's connected to gSender. So yeah, again, if you don't have any of these tabs, all you have to do is go to Window and then click on the ones that you want to enable. So I was talking about cuts and layers, which is right here. I was talking about the move function, which is right here. And I was talking about console, which is right here. So all mine are enabled. You can see the check mark beside it, the names. But if there was no check mark and you wanted it, just click on it. That will enable it, and then it should show up. The tab should show up. So again, that's just some simple stuff. We'll go over. Let's go over device. So when you're setting up your long mill, you're going to want to set it up. So if you were to create it manually, you would click on Gerbil, because the long mill is a Gerbil-based machine. You're going to click on the Gerbil with no other text beside it. You have Gerbil-LPAC. You have Gerbil-M3. You're just going to click on the regular Gerbil for the long mill. Then you're going to click on serial/USB. You're going to name it something. You're going to input the dimensions of your long mill. And then that's pretty much it to kind of set things up. After that, it should appear here. And then just like most softwares, if you did want to connect it, just make sure you're selecting the right COM. Each USB port on your computer has a different COM name, so you got to make sure you're selecting the right one if you want it to connect here. Very similar to gSender, but gSender will automatically kind of find which COM ports are essentially active for the long mill and actually kind of pre-select those to make things easier. But again, that's if you wanted to use LightBurn as your machine interface. So now that we've kind of gone over the basics, we want to make a coaster. So we want to engrave something. So first thing is finding an image. I'm not going to go over this part because I'm sure you guys have, everybody has a different way of finding an image, whether you're just downloading it straight from the internet, whether you're purchasing it from Etsy, whether you've designed your own images in Photoshop, Illustrator, Inkscape, all these other things. Whether you scanned an image, let's say you have a physical image and you scanned it, what you want, or what I like to work with in LightBurn is PNGs or JPEGs if I'm engraving an image. So you need your image. It can be whatever you need. You can download it. If it's not the right file type, you can use an online converter to convert the file types. You can use different softwares like Inkscape, which is free, to convert different file types. You can use stuff like Canva, which is an online editing tool to edit stuff and get the right file type. So we're going to be using a PNG, but if you have a JPEG or PNG, that will work. So first, we're going to click on File at the top left, and we're going to click on Import. So I have two images here, Design 1 and Design 2. They're both PNGs that I previously downloaded. And we're just going to click on Design 1. So when I open Design 1, it selected a cut and layer because it's assuming right now in the mode that we have it on is imaging. So it wants to essentially engrave it. This is the speed. This is the power. It's in this is the DPI. It's Jarvis. This is what we were playing with last time. But again, you can choose other things and test them out and see what works best for you. But I'm going to leave that alone. So we want a circle because our coaster is a circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the shapes here. I'm going to click on circle, the circle icon right here. It highlights red. If I clicked on the square, it would highlight red. I'm going to be using a circle because we're making the coasters. This is the material we're going to be using. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the circle around the general area that I want it. It might be hard to see because the circle is currently black. So I'm going to click back on the select tool and I'm going to highlight it. And then I'm going to make it red. So it still might be a little bit hard to see, but there is a red circle here. And we can see that now we have a different option for our cuts and layers. We have red. So now I'm using it to size up my image and to crop out the rest, everything that's not the circle, so that when I'm engraving, this is just a regular, hey, Nicholas, thanks for the question. This is just a regular ply. It's a birch that we got from a craft store. It was pre-cut, but later we should be able to cut some of our own from our own regular 3mm ply birch. So these are just pre-cut birch plywood little circles, and that's what we're going to be engraving on. So I made the circle. I'm going to drag it outside here so you guys can see it. I'll try to zoom in better. So we have this circle. Now I want to size it correctly. So I measured my material with some calipers. You guys can use a ruler, anything you need. You just want the measurement of the actual circle. So I used calipers to get the diameter of the circle because we want to mimic this the size here. So I know that my circle is 101.7 millimeters. So whenever you select on a design, so if I select the image, it gives me the option here to change the size. So let's say you want the same ratio, but you want to change the size, then you would lock the dimensions And now if I change one dimension, automatically keep that same ratio of the length to width or width to height, and it's going to change the other. But if I wanted to independently change both, I would unlock it. And now you can see this icon is unlocked. And now I can individually change either dimension independent of each other. So also, if I wanted to kind of size things and make sure that we're starting off in our origin point, it makes things easier if things aren't floating around in your design space, but this is just a personal preference. It could be different for you, but I always like to set my position to 0, 0, which essentially puts it in the bottom left corner, right? So now I have my circle and I have my design. So I said my circle is 101 millimeters, 101.7 millimeters. So I'm going to change the diameter to 101.7. And because it's a circle, it's a perfect circle, I need to change my height to 101.7. So let's say I lock these dimensions. These are now equal. These are now identical, symmetrical. So now if I change one, let's say I change that to 150, it's going to change the other to 150. That's how you use that tool. But if I change this to, if I unlock and now change this to 100, now we have an oval. I lock it back again and I change one of the dimensions to 200. The other dimension will change according to the ratio that you set. So I'm going to unlock it and change both back to 101.7, which is the size of my coaster material. 101.7. Now I have a perfect circle, and it's the same size as my physical circle material. So now I'm going to drag this circle over the design where I want it. So there's some nice big smiling sunflowers here, and I like the contrast of the white and the blacks and the grays. So I'm going to select it over this section. This is the section that I want inside my design. So now I'm going to click on my circle. I'm then going to hold Shift and click on the picture behind the circle. So one sec, I'm going to hold Shift and then click the picture as well. So the circle is now selected. I'm going to hold Shift and click the picture. So now by holding Shift, now both the circle and the picture are now selected. And then I right click and I click Apply Mask to Image. Okay. So I have both the circle and the image behind the circle selected. I placed my circle over the design that I wanted, so over the section of the design that I wanted, and I'm going to apply mask to image. And as you can see, now my design is just in the circle, but you can still see the outline of the general design, right? So if I move, hey, Gerard, thanks for joining us. So yeah, if I move this, everything, the whole design is going to move, circle and the larger design outline, because it's still there. We didn't like make it disappear. We just applied the mask to the circle. So now only this part is showing. So if I were to deselect and just select the circle and move it, now you can see the design is changing place, right? Because it's still there. It's just only the part that's inside the circle is going to show. And if I move the circle, so will, like everything will move. I hope that makes sense. So now I'm going to click 0, 0 on the origin, which should drop it down to the bottom left. I actually want it to be almost the center origin, right? So today we're going to be using the center origin. I'm clicking 0, 0. And it's making the box the center, but I want the circle to be the center. So I'm going to click 0, 0 just on the circle. I know the design is going to move, but I'm just going to physically move the design back to where I want it. or actually, I'm going to move it to the bottom left. So bottom left, 0, 0. That, sorry, that was the square. I'm moving the circle aligned to the bottom left because we need to be inside our work area. So if that was the circle, it would be outside. We need it to be inside. But the rest of the mask can be outside of the circle. Hey Jack, thanks for joining us today. The rest of the mask that's kind of invisible can still be there. So I know we had a few people join us, a few new people. So I'm just going to go over what I just did again, really quickly. So again, I imported my image. I created a circle. I made sure that the image was a different color than the circle, right? The image is black, or the image can be whatever color that you want because it's going to have different settings. The circle needs to be a different color as well because that's going to have different settings. And what I'm going to do is I'm selecting my circle. I'm holding shift and I'm selecting the image. So now both my circle and my image are selected. And then I'm right clicking and I'm clicking apply to mask. And then that gets rid of everything else but the circle. So again, when you're moving it around, if both things are selected, you can move around both. If you move just the circle, it will essentially only show what's inside the circle. And you can do this with any shape. So if I get rid of the circle, I made a hexagon. I'm going to get rid of the circle here. The mask disappears. I now put the hexagon over the image. I have the hexagon selected. I'm going to hold shift and select the image as well. And then I right click and click apply to mask. Now the mask is the hexagon. And if I just click on the hexagon and I move it around, only what's below the hexagon or the mask is going to show. Okay. So I'm going to delete both because we already have ours right here. I changed the height, or I changed the width and the height to match the diameter of my coaster material here, 101.7 millimeters. And I put it to the bottom left of our design space so that everything lines up and is a little bit easier. So now I'm going to play with the settings. So I won't actually be cutting this design because it is already cut. Our material is already cut. So if I was cutting the design, I would leave this red line in here and I would change this to match my cutting settings. So 4 passes, 1 millimeter Z on each pass. I'd probably change that to 1.8 and then it would do 4 passes. But I'm not actually using the line to actually cut this time because my material is already cut. So I'm just going to highlight output and get rid of it. So if you deselect output, you can keep the geometry. So the circle is still there and the apply to mask function is still working. But when I export this, this circle red line will not engrave or cut. It won't actually fire the laser. So this is just once you click output, it's just for design purposes at that point. So the only thing that's going to be engraving is the image inside this circle. So I got everything lined up now. Now I want to use, I'm clicking on here for start from. Before I actually save my G code, I clicked on start from and it's selected to current position. Actually, sorry, let's go through our engraving settings. So again, image mode is Jarvis. DPI is 254. Those are the settings that I like. My speed is 50 millimeters per second, so it's quite fast. It's faster than I usually like it, but I'm going to be going a lot higher power. So hopefully that will tailor it down. So 50 millimeters per second, max power is 100. I'm going to click OK. So our settings here are set. One pass, 50 millimeters per second, 100% power. Our start from setting here is on current position, and our job origin is center. So usually I like to go bottom left or top left. If your material is square or a rectangle, then you can just put your laser to the top of the material, top corner, top left, top or right, whatever matches the job origin here, and then start your job. And if you measured your material right and you used those dimensions of your material in your design, then everything should line up perfectly. But this time we're using a circular material. So I want to set the job origin to the center. So if this was a regular job, I would just, use, there's a bunch of woodworking techniques in order to find the center of a circle. You find the center of the circle, you mark it lightly with a pencil, and then you make your job origin the center, and then you actually set your origin point in gSender to that point, and then you start the engraving. Everything's good. Everything will line up. This time, we're going to be playing with the outline tool. So we're actually not even going to mark the center on our material. We're just going to be playing with the outline tool and trying to get everything outlined in order to kind of center everything. So that's why I'm making this the center, and I'm going to save G-code. And I'm going to save it as design1.nc. Again, most of the time it's going to auto save as an NC file, but if you just want to be 100% sure, you always add the .nc for laser G-code files. So we're going to hop over to gSender Edge, and we are going to load our file. So this is the new cool stuff that we can do with gSender Edge, is that when you open the file, you're actually going to see the design that we're actually going to be engraving. And you're going to see the details of the design that we're actually going to be engraving. Hey, Rudy. Hey, Gold. I didn't notice you there. Thanks for joining the live stream. So now we have this awesome, cool red, and you can actually edit the way this looks, and we can actually see the details in our engraving, which I just love. Honestly, I love that. Thank you very much to the software development team. You guys did a great job. And again, we made our origin the center instead of bottom left or top left. So now if I click 0 all, it's going to move. Well, it should move to the center. So let me double check my work. Click origin center up here, click origin center over here. And I'm going to save the G code. I'm going to overwrite my design here, replace it. And we should have our bit start in the center of the design. So right now, hey Jack, no, we're actually using gSender Edge to start our design. So we're not actually using LightBurn to run our design. We're using gSender Edge. So we're just trying to solve our issue of our center origin point, the floating origin. Here we want it to be centered to our design. Okay, so I don't know if we're running into a little bit of a software error or a user error, but let's find out. So our origin is in the center. Our design origin is in the center, but we're not getting a center actual output in our software. So what we want is the bit to appear in the center of our design and our design to appear in the center of our quadrant here. Okay, so I'm going to run a little test run here. Hey, Steven, thanks for joining us. So in our design, we seem to be offset. So yeah, we definitely have a issue in our LightBurn. So let's try to figure this out. Okay, let's save G code again. Actually, let's zero this out. Zero this out. And let's save G code. So hey Steven, I'm not sure if there is a simulate in LightBurn, but there definitely is a framing function in LightBurn. Actually, yes, I'm pretty sure there is a simulate. I'm pretty sure you can preview, and then you can drag this through to go through the simulation of LightBurn here. So again, not as cool as gSender, but the function does exist. Just right click and preview, and you can drag through your simulation here. But back to the issue at hand, our center point. Okay, so we have not solved the issue. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to move the initial mask. So Steven asks a question. I guess what I'm asking is if you're telling it to run from the center, I would expect that LightBurn would also do a preview from the center. Yeah, so LightBurn, I'm not sure if they actually take the starting coordinates into this preview here, because it is more of a preview of the design. Yeah. So that's essentially what I'm trying to find. I'm trying to figure out if it's just so let's just try to remake our circle here. Circle is seven. Yeah, we're almost getting a floating start point here. Let's try to zero it out. Let's try to zero the whole design out. So we zeroed out both, and then now we're essentially centered on our work material. And yeah, I think, Raphael, I think you're correct. I think it's taking the outer space settings into. But this is what we're here to do. We're here to play with our origin points and figure things out. So our goal is to have that yellow point. Yeah, Jack, Inkscape is a much better software, but it is I think for people just getting started, it's a little bit more technical. Um, So I figured we'd do this in LightBurn to make things simpler. So I'm going to just do everything centered. So I was designing in like wherever I wanted and then trying to move the whole entire mask. But now I'm just going to center our design here, and I'm going to center our circle here. So our circle, I'm making it red. I'm setting the right dimensions. So and then I'm going to zero it out in the center. And then I'm going to apply mask. So we're still off in our little, like that's where we would want it. But this is not the center of our circle. That's the center of our circle. And that's where we want that. So this is the issue we're trying to solve. We're trying to have our center point there and our center point here match. And we got it pretty close. But as we move this around, we seem to be losing our center point. So right about there, it matches. But if I were to move, and then that's where we lose it. So here we're good. Here we lose it. Here we're good. That's where we lose it. So I want to see what happens if I save G-code here while we're all matched up. Let me center that. Let's save G-code here. Tony. I think you're right. I think there's definitely a hidden shape here. Just messing. I know it's probably the example that I was doing previously. So let me just restart LightBurn here. Yeah. So you guys got to learn a lesson live. Don't make random shapes. because if you lose them, they could just mess with your origin points, which is always fun. So I'm starting with a fresh LightBurn, and we're only going to make one circle. We're making it red. Oh, we almost just did it again. We almost did it again. We created a very small circle. We want to take this and make sure we're on the selector tool. Oh, let me change the color here and apply mask. And then let me zero it all out. Oh, and we are still off by a little bit. That's just because we had our whole thing selected. So I should just select the circle. Circle. We're not centered. We now have our design, and we are now just about ready to go. Double check that. We're at 0, 0. Our green origin point is at 0, 0. And we are good to go. So that was just a live learning moment. If your green origin point is ever funky, it's weird, then it's probably just a shape in the background that you created by accident that's playing with your origin point. Tony, you're a LightBurn legend, and you saved us a lot of time. I was thinking something was like going up with the way I designed it, but sometimes it's just simple errors like that where we just had an extra shape in our work area, and that was messing up the origin point. So learn from me, learn from Tony. Always make sure that you're not automatic or you're not selecting things like that by accident. Always click back to your selector when you're done designing, whether you're doing text and you're done. Always click back to the selector. Always, always, always. Or what tool you're using, as the moment you're done using it, always click back to the selector. It's going to help little tiny mistakes like that. So again, our output for the line, we're not actually outputting anything. We're going to save this G code. And we're going to be using a center origin in gSender Edge. So now we are perfectly centered. So again, what did we learn? We have our origin point down here. We have our design origin. But if this green origin point doesn't match where we want things to start, then it will change the way it opens in gSender, right? So we have our center origin here. We have our center origin here. And you have to make sure that those all line up. We always want those to line up. So if I was doing bottom left, I would select bottom left. I'd want the green to be bottom left. We did learn the Tony way today. Thank you very much, Tony. I love that. Today we learned the Tony way. Okay. So, are you guys tired of looking at a screen? And are you guys ready to actually laser some stuff? So, we have our laser at 2%, and we're going to turn on. So, for our outline, I have my driver at dip switch 1. So, I'm turning on my driver. So, my laser driver is now enabled. And we are going to be finding our origin point with the outline tool. So I'm zeroing it all for now. I'm going to switch over so that you guys can see that better. And I'm just going to put it generally in the center. I know I'm not going to get it perfectly in the center of my laser, but I am now going to turn the laser on. Actually, I'm going to do outline and see if it automatically turns the laser on. And want our safety glasses on. So yeah, our outline tool will automatically turn our laser on at the percentage that you set it. So I have it set at 2%, and I have my dip switch on 1. Right? So I'm not perfectly centered, and I could just tell that from the outline. So I'm just going to run the outline again and just try to get my design kind of centered all the way around. So that was pretty good. I want to double check my dimensions to make sure that they're correct. So I noticed that my circle was a little bit. Thanks for the reminder, Nicholas. I noticed my circle was a little bit small, and that's because I didn't have the right dimensions in. So it's 101.7 and 101.7. So we were a little bit off there. That's Leandro. He has his glasses on. Don't worry about it. He's managing the stream. He will see proof that he has his glasses on. So I just remade the file. I'll show you guys. So I had it. It was actually a little bit smaller. After we figured out the origin, we didn't reset our total size. So I noticed that it was a little bit smaller than my material. So I changed it back to the exact diameter of my material, which is 101.7 millimeters, and resaved it. So now if I go back to gSender and maybe open it up for the 100th time, we are finally good. We're good on our origin. We're good on our size. And just as a quick check, you can always just kind of double check things to make sure things are all right. But that's why the outline tool is so useful, right? Again, it will automatically take whatever percentage you set your laser test percentage to. So mine's set to 2%. My dip switch is set to 1 because I don't want to mark up my material. And I want to outline. So we'll do an outline again. So it'll generate the outline, and it's going to move to the edge and then circle. So I'm just going to try to get a better view. So we are almost centered. I just have to move it a little bit. I do believe we are now centered, so I'm going to try the outline one more time. So obviously, if you just had a dot in the center, if you just center your circle item, you could just match it to the center of your laser, and you're good to go. But I just wanted to show off the outline tool. We are almost perfectly centered. So I'm going to let you guys see that a little bit better. Yeah, Jack, you should always wear the glasses. I'm telling you, for the laser, you really could lose your vision, and we don't want that for you. We want you to have 20/20 vision for as long as you can. So hopefully you guys can see this a little better. I'm going to outline it one more time just to make sure we're just perfectly outlined there. We're just about there. You guys can see how cool the outlining tool is. So I think we just need to make a slight move, and we should be perfectly centered there. So we kind of want to move it to the right and up a little bit. And hopefully this is the last time we get to outline it, but at least you guys get to see this awesome tool in work. So at dip switch 1 and at 2%, you're not going to be burning your material. And you really do get to make sure that your design is going to be perfect. But obviously, just mark the center point and go from there if you are strapped for time. Because obviously, it might not be a perfect circle here, but it's close enough. So I like that. We're going to do it one more time, and I swear that's it. Okay, so I'm ready to run my design. I'm going to switch to dip switch level 4 because I'll be running this design, dip switch level 4. And then we're going to be yeah, that's a great observation, Chris. So once you do have it centered, or once you have the center point marked, you can literally just pump things out super quickly. You can do multiple items. Let's say I wanted to make 100 of these. Once you have things centered, you just make stops so that you can just pump these things out. Hot glue stops, and then you can just pop them out, pop them in, pop them out, pop them in, and you can really get things going a lot faster. But I just love the outline function, and I really wanted to play with it. So bear with me. So now I am centered. I'm as centered as I would like to be at the moment, and we are going to be using a waste material for focusing so that we don't mark up our actual material here. Yeah, Nicholas, that's also a great idea. Ninter, you can also use grid lines. Nicholas, yes, you can also cut out a circle in a piece of paper. You can glue the piece of paper down or tape the edges, cut out a circle of the piece of paper, remove the cutout circle, and then put your coasters in the center. That's also a great time. That's also a really cool design. Maybe we'll do that next. So maybe on the next one, if you guys don't get bored of me, we'll try that method out, and we'll just play with it. So this is what I'm going to be focusing on. It's a 3mm thick piece of birch because I don't want to mark my material. So I have it centered. I'm zeroed out on gSender edge. I'm zeroed out. And now I have a 3mm piece of material on top of my actual work material. So where it says Z move under jaw control, I'm going to change that to 3 millimeters, which is the thickness of my material that's sitting on my actual coaster. I'm going to click the Z plus or Z up function once. I'm going to click that button once. So it moved 3 millimeters. Yeah. So, oh, 1 sec. I now have my focusing tool for the G2 lens. I am at the right height on my actual waste material. I'm now going to focus it. So now I'm going to click laser on, and you can see it's slightly burning my material, but that's okay because I'm using a focusing material. So I'm going to make sure I am focused as could be. So that looks good to me. I'm going to turn my laser off. I'm going to remove my top material. And now I am ready to run my job. So I'm going to go ahead and start the job. So Dwar, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. There really isn't a best way to install your laser. It's really just personal preference, and maybe depending on what accessories you have, that might determine which side is best for you. If you have the older laser, or if you have the older long mill router mounts, you're going to be able to mount on the left or right side. If you have more of the newer long mill router mounts, you're going to be able to mount to the front. Okay, so there really isn't like it's really personal preference. So if you have one of the older router mounts and you don't mind the left or right, like I have an older router mount on the long mill here, and I don't mind using the left or right. The right side has the dust shoe arm, so I usually mount it on the left side, but I could as easily just take it off and mount it on the other side. Let's say you have a probe. You purchase the probe from the CNC Lab shop. You could mark it on whichever side you want it to probe. So I know that if I had it on this side, I would want the dust shoe arm to kind of hit my probe so that I don't crash my laser, as the dust shoe arm protrudes farther than the actual laser, right? So it's going to be personal preference. Yes. On the water, Florida, you are correct. I actually did need to, Jim Harris, I did need to drop it down 3 millimeters, but I do still believe that I'm going to be somewhat in focus. I'm just not going to be super sharp. So I'm going to let this run. It's not going to be the best. It's not going to be the best focus. Thanks for catching that, Jim, and on the water, Florida. Thank you for catching that. I should have dropped it down by that 3 millimeters that I raised it up when I was focusing on the actual focusing material. So this will be 3 millimeters out of focus. So it won't be too bad, but it won't be perfect. So we'll most likely run it again, and we'll make sure that that is perfectly in focus. Or I could pause the job. Oh, actually, no, I don't have access to the move. So I thought I would have access to be able to drop it down, but unfortunately, we don't. And honestly, I probably should have raised the power a little bit. I actually probably should have raised it to dip switch setting number 5, because I do think that I would like a darker design. Um, so that's just the trial and error. Obviously, if you were making these for production, let's say you're making them as a gift for a friend, um, you would probably want to test out some different settings. You could obviously use our test file that we shared with you guys last live stream, and you can test out all the different settings. So me, I just wanted to play with a different speed, different power, and it turned out that this is a little bit too light. So that's okay. What I'll probably end up doing is flipping it, and then Yeah, you know what? That Jack in the Shop, that's actually a good. So Chris asks, so in that case, shouldn't you still be good to go? Um, Actually, yes, yes. I actually didn't reset zero. Thank you, Chris, for catching that. Um, so okay, let's break this down. So I raised the Z 3 millimeters, added a 3 millimeter piece to focus it. I focused the laser, but I didn't reset my zero. So the machine was still zeroed at my regular start point. And thank you, Chris, for pointing that out. So even though I didn't manually drop my three, which would have zeroed out my Z axis, when I removed my piece and I pressed start, the machine would have automatically dropped down three because I did reset my zero at my original focus point, which was to the coaster material. But that being said, I would like to run it at a higher power. So maybe I'll show you guys just for uh, just for general purposes. You do have the option to raise the power essentially mid job. Obviously, I'm at 100%, so you could go a little bit higher than 100%, right? But let's say it was the very beginning of the job and I didn't want to restart. You can still edit the amount of power that you're giving it. So I could still raise it. So, Alan, thanks for asking the question. So, you have vCarve Pro, which you use for all your CNC router programming for the long mill. And they do have a module, a laser module that you could purchase. And you're wondering whether you should either go all in with vCarve and or get the laser module, or whether you should go to LightBurn. Uh, I don't have a lot of experience with vCarve. I know it's a great software for long mill CNCing, and a lot of people love it. But I personally recommend LightBurn. It is just so robust. The amount of tutorials and forums that you're going to be able to be a part of, the amount of resources that you're going to be able to use. If you sent in a ticket, uh, you would have a lot more support on our end with LightBurn. Although we're not a full service LightBurn service here, as you can see, we all make mistakes. Shout out to the Tony Way for helping me with that. But I'm gonna have much more experience to help you out with LightBurn than I am with the vCarve laser module. So it is personal preference. We do not pressure anybody to purchase any different software. We are very software agnostic, except for gSender. gSender is the best machine interface ever made. Shouts out to the software engineering team. We don't pressure anybody to order any certain software, but I do recommend LightBurn. I've been using it for over a year, and honestly, it's one of the best softwares I've ever used. Even today, I was able to just import the design, and I could have started playing with the brightness, the contrast of the design. I could have done a lot more. The masking tools, it's just full service. To me, it's the best laser software out there. And I love just exporting the G code and running it in gSender. So that's my workflow. That's a lot of people's workflows. But there's a lot of people out there that do use the vCarve laser module. But I just personally like LightBurn. So thanks, Drawer, for adding in your 2 cents. Yeah, a lot of people do like the LightBurn software. So Steven brings up a good point. So one good reason to use vCarve is if you want to do multiple kind of functions on your project. Let's say you want to engrave it with the CNC, and then you want to do some engraving outlines with the laser. You could just keep it on all on vCarve, but me personally, uh, later in this LaserBeam live series, we will be working on multi-tool jobs where we have something that was engraved, and then we also use the laser. So that'll be a little bit down the line. But I will be doing that. So we will find out. We will come up with workflows, and I'm sure other people have come up with workflows that also work. But I guess that is a pro for VCarve laser module, is that you get to engrave stuff and then immediately after laser that same piece with a little bit more ease than you would. Let's take a look at our design. So yeah, I really just would like it darker. That would be my only complaint. So I think we will run this again, and actually we'll try out the paper method. So we'll grab a piece of paper, and I'll show you guys how to do that. So I will essentially keep the circle on the on my original design. I'll keep the circle. It will cut out the circle first. I'll give it a pause, and then it will then I can just put my piece of wood in there, and then it should engrave it. So if you guys aren't sick of me after that, so Ninter, any updates on a quick release mount? Nothing that I can share right now. I know Chris is his mind is percolating a bunch of different designs, a bunch of different potential uses in terms of drag knives and things like that. But he wants to make sure that it's really kind of all encompassing and simple and not too overly engineered. But he shared a few of his preliminary ideas with me, and it's looking promising. But as he starts to formulate his design, he will reach out to me, and we'll make sure that it works for the laser. But yeah, stay tuned for that for sure. It's something that we're kind of really excited for as we expand into different types of accessories and kind of things that you could put on the long mill itself. So yeah, this is a great time to ask any questions. We can even kind of go through what we went through earlier today. Um, so earlier today, we were having an issue lining up our center point, this green center point, with the center point of our work area. Because we wanted the job to start at our center, we were having a little bit of an issue because we actually had a mystery circle that was floating around in the background that was actually making things oh, that was actually making things a bit difficult to get centered. So as you can see, when there's a circle, it moves the green highlight here, which is where uh, essentially we want that to be lined up with the edge of our material, the corner here, which essentially shows us where we're going to be starting our origin in gSender. And because we had an extra circle here, like I just created one on purpose here, we can see that that green dot changed where we needed to actually start our origin point. So I get rid of the extra circle that I made by on purpose this time. Our green origin point returns back to the center of our circle, which is lined up to 0, 0 on our work grid here. So if you ever do run into something like that, it will affect where your project's going to want to start and the way that it looks in gSender. So again, what we did to get this design was we imported an image. It was a PNG. We made a circle. We selected the circle. So we made a circle. We selected the circle. We held shift and we selected the image as well. And then we right clicked and we clicked on apply masks to image. And now only what's below the circle will ever be visible, right? But as you can see, now we have multiple shapes on our design. It's trying to center where this green mark is here, right? Because that essentially would be the center point of your entire design. If you drew a square or a circle around your entire design, that new green point is where it's centered. That only happens when you have multiple things that are detached on your work area. So I was just showing you that as an example. But if I delete that, my green center point now returns to where it should be, which is in the center of my design, the center of my circle, and the center point 0, 0 of my actual design here. So I hope that makes sense. I am going to be playing with some power settings. So on this new design, I want it to be a little bit darker. So instead of 50 millimeters per second, I'm going to change it to 35 millimeters per second. Actually, I'm going to change it to 40 millimeters per second. I'm dropping it down by 10 millimeters per second. I am now going to select the output on LightBurn. So now it will try to cut out this red circle. So before I deselected output, so it was just a reference for designing. And now that I've selected it, it's now going to cut it out. So for me, I only need one pass because we're going to be cutting it out of paper. Actually, I'll do 2 passes just in case. So now we have 2 passes on the cutout. And because I want to do this all with one laser G code, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting the cut. I'm going to be holding my cut function here, which is the red. Yep. Yeah, Nicholas, you beat me to the punch. Nicholas, you beat me to the punch. So I'm going to be holding this and dragging it above so that now my line will cut first. I can pause my job. I can put my wooden piece into the center, line it up with the paper, and then I can resume the job by pressing play in gSender, and then it will engrave the image. So what I did was I lowered the power and I added the cut so that we can use a piece of paper as an outline for our. So we'll be just taping down a piece of paper. So hey Jim, actually it's in reverse. So the router mount that I currently have now is actually an old design. So the pause between layers is you would have to physically pause it on gSender or on your long mill controller. There is essentially like a default pause, but it's not really a pause. It's just your laser needs to move to the starting point of the next command, right? So if it wants to start at the bottom, but it finished cutting at the top or anywhere else, it'll naturally like pause for a second, move to the starting point of your next function on this list of cut and layers, and then begin. So there is somewhat of a natural pause, but if your cut or if your first function finishes where your next function starts, there really won't be a pause there. So you will have to physically pause it after you see it finish cutting, and that's what I'm going to be doing on my side. So that's what we're going to be doing there. I'm going to be seeing if we have some tape around because I want this to be kind of quick. Because I don't want the fans to blow the piece of paper after it's been cut or during it's been cut or when I'm placing the actual piece there. So we are just going to wait for this to finish, and then we are going to try it one more time. More power. Yeah, again, Jim, I actually have the old router mounts. The new router mounts have the front mount. So this is an older router mount, so it is a left or right side laser mounting system. So we have about 8 minutes left. We're going to be running another job, and then I believe I'm going to try to finish it, with some of this poly-X finish. It's from Osmo, and then we just made some coasters. One will definitely look better than the other, but that's the whole point of trial and error. Try things out. We see what works best. Obviously, it's best to try things out on your scrap material, but yeah. So I will be switching dip switch from level 4 to level 5 for more power, and then I will also be. I also already lower the speed from 50 millimeters per second to 40 millimeters per second. So lowering speed essentially increases power. And do we have tape? Did you find me tape? Yeah. So lowering speed essentially increases power. So Nicholas, for laser shielding acrylic, you want to kind of get the same orange that we have here, and 3 millimeters will shield up to OD3 plus, which is just about half of the shielding that you have in your laser glasses. So it's not a perfect representation. Oh yeah, yeah, that'll work. So Alan, so yeah, it's not a so orange acrylic will not replace the amount of shielding that you have here. So you'll always have to wear your safety glasses, but you can get added safety by adding more shielding with a 3 millimeter orange acrylic. You want it to be the same tint as the orange acrylic that comes with your Air Assist. We can't really give you recommendations, but Alan, for your question, uh, you can save a project and come back to it. But if you actually want to export the G code, you have to select Save G code. So you can save a project up here by clicking Save as a LightBurn file. But then if you want to save the G code, you have to click down here, and then you save it as a .nc file. So yeah, Alan, hopefully I answered your question. You can save a project as a LightBurn file, but if you actually want to export your G code, it's that's down here with the Save G code button, and then you can save that as a .nc file like that. So .nc. But if you actually want to just save the entire project with all the settings and all the designs, then you can save that from up here under File and Save As or Save. So yeah. So I do recommend saving your projects, right? So you can come back and you can change things and you can tweak things, but also when you're ready to actually send it to the long mill, then you actually save as a .nc file. So we are just about finishing up here, hopefully a couple more minutes, and then we are going to be trying test number 2, which will cut out the piece of paper and then engrave a little bit darker. So I'm going to be changing the dip switch from dip switch 4 to dip switch 5 to get more 20% more power. And then I also lowered the speed from 50 millimeters per second to 40 millimeters per second, which also gives us more power because lowering speed essentially gives the laser more time to engrave the actual material, which makes things look darker. So power and speed are inversely related. So I just made sure that my cutting line was before my image so that after it cuts the piece of paper, I can pause it. I can put my little wood piece there. Yes, Stephen. Stefan. Stephen. Is it Stefan or Stephen? I'm sorry. But yes, we need more power. A lot of times, I like it when things are darker. If you have the proper amount of contrast in an image, which we do in this image, we have a bunch of brights, whites, we have the grays, we have the blacks. Most of the time, it's going to look better with more power on that. So as soon as this is done, we're going to be taping our piece of paper. We're going to be running through everything again, and hopefully we'll have an even better looking coaster. We will then finish it up with some of this Osmo finish. We're going to be using a paintbrush. We're going to put on our gloves. We're going to be using a paintbrush, and we're just going to finish both sides. And yeah, we're going to have some coasters when those are dry. So those will be just about finished. Just a couple more minutes. We can use gSender to estimate the time. I don't think we're gonna have time to cut out the do some cuts and some engraves, but we can do a continuation of this on next live stream where we cut and we engrave and we do both. So next live stream we'll be doing the cutting and the engraving, and I can also play with different shapes because we can do hexagons, which I think might be a little bit cooler than the circles, as we're doing this essentially the circle patterns this time. And then next live stream will be a continuation. Um, we can play with some different stuff. You absolutely do gotta love CNCs. These things are just so cool, and the fact that they're pretty affordable, and you could just do so much with them, depending on what you love to do. Like I love making stuff like this for family members and friends, and it's always just a fun time. It's always fun to design. It's always fun to test, even when you get things wrong, even when you mess things up. It's always the best feeling when you figure things out. Again, thank you, Tom. We did things the Tom way this time, and we figured it out. So that's kind of what I love about the ecosystem. And we could just use the gSender tool to see what our estimated time. So we have about 2-3 minutes. Obviously, it's not perfectly accurate, but most times we get it pretty close. So we are just a couple minutes away from this being finished, and then we'll try to do this one more time with the paper method. And yes, actually, we were. We wanted to post. I think we'll post them to the Instagram. I think the baloney made it to the Instagram. I know that for sure. Uh, so I will send the marketing team some more pictures, and they'll post some more pictures of the marshmallows and all that stuff. So just keep them coming, keep them coming. The baloney definitely made it to the to the Instagram. We love to see that. Next time we'll post some more things, and so yeah, just keep sending those in, and we'll keep posting them. So we are just about finishing up here. Should be done in a couple minutes, and then we'll run this one more time. We will finish them up, and then we will call it a live stream. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us. Alan, I can't help you with that one. You know what? My key is you have to make things for her, because then she at least gets some enjoyment out of your CNC time. Every time you go to the CNC, she'll be wondering, am I getting a new cutting board? Am I getting some new stuff for the walls? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I forgot. I forgot the baloney's name. I'm sorry, Jack. I forgot. I forgot. Please remind me the name. You guys are hilarious. Yes, Jack's famous baloney did make it to the CNC Labs Instagram. We love to see it. All right, just finishing up. All right, so this is complete. I kind of still do like it. I love it. It looks really cool. It's not the best. I would like a little bit more power. There we go. But I think it's a cool design. So while the other job is going, I will be finishing this one with a little bit of this indoor hardwood finish. So this time, let's use a different method. What we want to do is we're going to be taping a piece of paper. Rip me some tape. So yeah, we're going to be taping the edges of some piece of paper. And then we're going to be cutting the circle. And then we're going to be placing our coaster in the cutout of the circle, which will essentially line everything up without a center point or the outline tool. So I forgot who recommended this technique, but whoever recommended it, thanks. We're going to try it out and hopefully give some people some ideas for different ways to make repeatable projects and finding center points or start points or origin points of pre-cut out materials. Hopefully it simplifies the process a little bit for your next project. So we got a bunch of tape. So now nicely taped down. And I am going to be loading the new project. So what changes did we make? Yeah, it's actually fairly accurate. It estimated about 30 minutes, and it took just about 30 minutes for gSender. It is tough for some projects. Sometimes it will be less accurate than the next. But at least for most projects, most straightforward engraving projects, it's pretty accurate. Might be off by a few minutes, but it's pretty accurate, Tony. Nicholas, Chris did tell me that these features will eventually make its way to gSender, but if Chris is still in the chat, maybe he can give you more accurate information, but I do believe some of the better features or some of the features will make its way into gSender eventually. But I could be wrong. If Chris is in the chat, please correct me if I am wrong. So yeah, let's go back to our design. So we are centered. We are centered here. We are good. So we're output in the middle. We're going to do 2 passes of our cut line to cut out the piece of paper, and then we're going to put our material on. So I'm going to save G code. I'm going to name it design 2. I'm going to open it up in gSender. Give it a second with the pretty 3D render. Awesome. I am now going to focus it again first to my material. So this time I'm going to make sure. I'm also going to change my dip switch from level 4 to 5 because I want the effects to be a little bit darker this time. I'm just going to double check my firmware settings, make sure everything A-okay. Again, if you missed the last stream, we want this to match our S value in LightBurn. Want this to be 0. Want this to be enabled. Everything looks good. So I have my coaster. I have my material. I am just missing my G2 oh, there it is. I am just going to make sure I'm at the right height. So actually, I'm just going to lower it a little bit. I'm going to lower it by 2 millimeters. So I am in the focus range. I'm just going to lower it a little bit more. So I'm more in the center of the two heights. That's the top height. This is the bottom height. So I am almost perfectly in the center of that. I am going to focus my laser at 2%. So I am relatively focused there. I'm going to turn the laser off. And this time, I am going to remove my focusing waste material, and I am going to drop things down by 3 millimeters. So I drop it down by 3 millimeters. I am now focused on my actual material, and then I'm going to zero everything so that I'm nice and zeroed. And now I can remove my coaster, my material. I am going to start the job. It'll do the cutting first. It'll do 2 passes of the cut. Hopefully it doesn't light the paper on fire. And we have fire suppression on the way. And then we're going to pause it. I'm going to remove the piece of paper, and then we will place our coaster in the center. So I will actually drop it down. I will actually drop my dip switch down to dip switch 4, because we don't need that much power for the cutting of the piece of paper, and we don't want it to light on fire. So I'm going to make sure, okay. So I'm actually going to raise the speed by a lot. So I'm just using the override to raise the speed. And I'm actually going to lower the power. So you can actually change things while you're cutting. So I'm actually lowering the power and raising the speed. Speed is at 200%. And the power is at 40%. Because it is paper, we really don't need that much power. And I'm only going to need 1 pass, but I'll let it do its 2 passes. But as you can see, the paper is cutting. It's making a perfect outline of our coaster size. And then we're going to be stopping it after its 2nd pass. So because it's already essentially cut out, as soon as it hits its start point, it has 1 more pass, but I'm just going to lower the power even more. I'm just going to lower it to 10%, as low as it goes. So now it's at 10%. So as you can see, it's very low power. We remove the circle here. So that's a perfect cutout of our material. So now we can just drop our coaster in, and we are good to start engraving. So it's doing its 2nd pass. And then I'm going to pause it. I'm going to reset my override. So I'm going to go back to 100% power and 100% speed instead of 200% speed and 10% power. So once we get close, I'm just going to reset everything back to normal. And then I will be pausing the job. So I'm just going to pause it there. We're going to set our overrides back. I'll show you guys on the screen. So I'm setting my override back to 100% speed, what I set it in the programming. And I'm setting the power back to 100%, what I set in the programming. But just for the sakes of cutting out the paper, I lowered the speed so I wouldn't burn the paper, and I raised the speed and I lowered the power just so I wouldn't burn the paper and it wouldn't take too long. So now I can place my coaster or my material, my start material, sorry, one sec. Now I can place my coaster in the center of the cutout. It's perfectly sized. Beautiful. And I will be switching the dip switch back from 4 to 5. Nicholas is always on it. He's always on it with the reminders. We do appreciate you guys. I am human. We all make mistakes, but it's always nice to get a reminder. So now my dip switch is 5. So last job, it was 4. I lowered the speed in my LightBurn software so it'll be a darker engraving. And I am perfectly centered thanks to the paper cutout, which I forgot who gave that idea, but we appreciate it. It was cool to see that. If you guys are ever doing repeatable jobs, so now I could import the same G code without the cutout, and I could just keep placing these coasters in the paper, and I could get through them. I could, if you ever had like a bulk job, you can make jigs, you can make little pegs, you can super glue or you can hot glue pegs to create that cutout and just make sure everything's in line for speed purposes. So now I'm going to resume the job. It's almost done. And then it will start engraving. So now we're at dip switch 5, and you can already see that it's much, much, much darker than it was because I lowered the speed by 20% and I raised the power via the dip switches by 20%, going from dip switch 4 to dip switch 5. So that's the color that I wanted to see originally. So while that's going, I am just going to use some of this wood finish, and I'm going to just paint some of this on. And I'll show you guys the finished product. And then as soon as this job is done, we'll do the same thing. I'll show you guys what we're working with, and then we'll end the stream there. We have 2 coasters. So I'll show you guys what I'm working with on this side. So this is what I'm using for the finish. So it's going to be good for the heat of a drink or the cold of a drink. Just Osmos, some simple product. I'm going to be putting on my gloves. And I'm just going to be using a paintbrush. So I'm just going to be using a paintbrush to paint this stuff on. Make sure we get some good soaked. We get it good and soaked in there. We're going to be doing both sides. So yeah, even if you wanted to engrave both sides, you could do that. So it doesn't matter which side you have it on. You'll have a cool design. You could switch up the design. As long as you keep the zeros in gSender, you could switch the designs and use the same paper to keep everything centered. And it's very repeatable. So I'm just putting on this gloss finish. It's going to be good for the heat, good for the cold. And although this engraving didn't come out perfect, it's still good. It's a trial and error of life. But I'm very excited for that one to come out because we can already see that it's a much darker. It's going to look much better in the end. We're going to add this same finish to that. And we're going to have a couple of really cool coasters. So again, you can make this any design, any image that you want. just download or convert the PNG and then upload the PNG, import the PNG straight to LightBurn. And in LightBurn, you can also optimize your images, right? So you can improve the contrast because a better contrasted photo is going to show better with the engravings, because all you have for engraving is just different shades of black, essentially, which is just modulated by the power. And then the grain of the wood will indicate what the different shades are going to end up looking like. So this was a super simple project. If you want to make these for your family members, you want to sell custom ones, you want to give them as a gift to your friends, to your siblings, to your children, you can make them all sorts of cool custom coasters. And then you can even make a coaster storing station with your long mill CNC router. You can cut out this, you can make a custom cutout of this and actually store them. So you can actually, whenever you need them, you can pull them out. And this is just another cool project that you can do with your long mill CNC and your LaserBeam. So this was super easy. So guys, after this job is done in about I don't know how long you guys want to stick with us, but this might be about 30 minutes, maybe 30 more minutes. But after we finish this, we're just going to finish it with the gloss, and then we're going to call it a night. So if you guys have any questions, guys have any more comments, just have them start rolling in now, and then we'll end after this job is finished. Again, we want to thank you guys for joining us. This has been a really fun live stream. I feel like I'm back in school doing arts and crafts, but with really expensive machines. Well, not that expensive, because the long mill is perfectly priced and a really high-powered laser. What more could you want, guys? So I got a couple of layers of this gloss on. Starting to look real shiny. I like the way this is finishing. I really like the way that engraving is looking. It's going to look really good with the finish on that. Jim Harris, rotary axis. Yes. No promises, but I'm working on it. Chris has taught me too well never to give a date this early. But as I get down to prototyping and we find suppliers and we have stuff coming in and everything's tested, we'll definitely announce a date and we'll let you guys pre-order. I would love for it to be ready for Christmas, but that is not a promise. But I'm very excited for a rotary axis. The room in the shop to install the 48 jack, I don't know. I can't help you with that one. Maybe if you sell enough custom baloney, you'll be able to afford a bigger shop, but no promises. Yeah, the rotary is not that hard to DIY, but of course, a lot of people just don't have the time to play with that and would rather just buy it outright. But again, you don't have to buy it from us. But like all items on our shop, they will be made to kind of integrate seamlessly. And we'd never really price gouge with our prices. So we're always going to be reasonably priced. And it's always an awesome way to support the company is to support all the accessories that we do put out for the machine. But by no means do you have to purchase it from us. You can buy a third-party rotary axis if you just really don't want to wait. That's no problem with us. We appreciate your support nonetheless. All right. So we just gloss this up with a few layers. And it looks pretty nice. So let that dry. And we got a coaster. Hey, could you grab me a paper towel or a couple of paper towels? So I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to put that to the side. And this next one coming up is really going to be my piece de resistance. So Ninter, thank you very much. So for the, if you did have a rotary axis, you would unplug either your x-axis or you would unplug your two y-axis motors, because the rotary, like the spinning of the rotary axis, would actually replace the movement in either the x or the y direction, right? So that rotation has to replace either the x movement or the y movement. So depending on how you orient your rotary drive, you would unplug either your x or you would unplug your y's. Yeah, exactly. So it would just take the slots of one of your other axes, one that you don't need. So you would want your Z for setting your origin point, right, or your focusing of the laser. You'd still want your Z axis, but yeah, exactly, X or Y. Yeah, Jack is completely correct. You'd want just to replace your X or your Z. So motor slots isn't really an issue. You'd essentially just replace that. And as soon as this one is done, it's about 33% done. So yes, I do believe you would still be able to use gSender because LightBurn itself has a rotary function in it. So essentially, you're just converting X or Y distance into rotational circumference. So yes, LightBurn would do all the calculations and would still be able to export that G code. You would tell it how big your rollers are, you would calibrate everything, and then you would still be able to export that new rotary styled G code to your gSender and actually still use it in gSender. So this new coaster with the darker, with the more power settings, stiff switch 5, and slower than the last project, is really looking good. We're at about 30-40%. So this rotary axis would just be for the laser. So when you're designing a rotary axis for CNCing, like with the router and the bits, exactly, like a lathe, you would essentially need much more robust work holding, because it has to be able to hold up to the force of your z-axis pushing down on it and all the other forces created with that rotation. So it's a much more robust, probably going to end up being more expensive. Whereas the laser, you can just place a bottle or any circular item on it, and the work holding is much simpler. So it's almost a totally different product. But I'm sure the long mill team would also has ideas of also including a rotary axis for the CNC. I just don't want to speak for them, as they are having fun developing all sorts of cool stuff that you guys will love to see in the future. So I just know for myself that I get tons of emails and talk to tons of people who want to be able to engrave aluminum or stainless steel tumblers, uh, cups, all sorts of things. So that's something that I'm excited to release for the LaserBeam. Although it might not be released, it might not be for actual CNC router use. So yeah, just to clear that up. So yeah, I'm super excited for this job to finish. I really want to get a gloss on that and get that dried because it looks awesome. If you're curious, the image that I'm using is a art piece by Takashi Murakami. He's a Japanese artist. Um, he did a lot of Kanye's cover art, and he does a lot of really cool art. It's almost like they're like sunflowers with smiley faces on them. There's just a bunch of them. I think they're really cool, and I really want to see what this looks like when it finishes up. Obviously, we lost a little bit of detail, but if you're really going for as much detail as possible, then you're looking for like the highest quality imagery. You're going to be playing with contrast, brightness, trying to get that all that detail to show up on the laser. So definitely is some things that you would play with. So it would actually lower the Z clearance because you would have less space for the Z. But I'm going to try to make it in a way where you won't be sacrificing. You would still be able to use all the different lenses, right? So essentially, you needed to have enough space to have the largest lens, which is I think is a G7. So you'd need about that much clearance, and then you'd have the item that you're using, right? So rotary axis, item, and then enough clearance for that. So that's just something that we have to work with in the design process. That's something we're going to be prototyping and working with and seeing what we can do. Again, I know this has been a long live stream. Want to thank you guys all. No, these ones we're not going to sand. These ones, obviously, you guys at home would do a bunch of different other stuff. Um, but this is just quickly to show you guys what's available, what's possible. We could obviously sand it, we could finish it, we could do a bunch of different stuff. But yeah, you could do the same, Jack, for a rotary axis. I don't think I will, and I think when I end up designing it, I can't really expect everybody to do it. So I will still have to design it with those clearances in height in mind. But if customers do want to do that, obviously you would get that extra space. Yeah, you do lose a little bit of the detail when you do sand it, because it is that difference in height, right, of the engraving and also that darkening coming from the heat of the laser essentially. And when you sand it, you do kind of get rid of that a little bit. So obviously not too much, but these pre-cut ones were kind of pre-sanded. They have clean edges and everything. So if I was cutting this straight from the birch, I'd probably make sure to sand the edges for sure. But this one was pretty simple and it was pretty easy to use. So um, good night, Alan. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch you in 2 weeks for LaserBeam Livestream 3, where we'll continue playing with origins and cutting and engraving little pieces. So thank you so much for joining us, Alan, and we'll catch you next time. But we're still going for another 20 minutes, 20 more minutes. We're just going to finish up this engraving. We're going to finish it up with a little bit of gloss, and then we're going to call it a night. Yeah, want to make sure that we're still getting up for work tomorrow. So about 20 more minutes, and we'll be ending the live stream. So I just want to thank you guys all for joining. And again, if you have any comments or questions, just get them in now, uh, so that you don't wake up tomorrow and be like, "Oh, I should have asked this, or we should have checked out this." because our next live stream will be in 2 weeks. We'll find some cool projects. Maybe I'll be doing hexagonal. Um, so Tony, I use Air Assist usually for cutting. Um, Engraving and certain functionalities, yeah, you're gonna get more detail and everything. Uh, Sometimes you will get a little bit of like the blowback of it, but because we're kind of engraving the entire surface of this, yeah, Air Assist would definitely add a little bit of detail. Maybe on the next live stream we could play with the Air Assist and we could actually look at the difference when we're cutting uh, our coasters from this material, the regular birch, the unfinished birch, 3 millimeter birch. We'll use the Air Assist, and we can even use Air Assist on, and we can show Air Assist off to kind of give you guys a show you guys the real difference with that putting an Air Assist makes for your engravings and also your ease of cutting materials. So yeah, that's a good to point out, Tony. And yeah, that's something we can play with on the next live stream. It's just showing you guys the difference. So this is drying up nice. I really like it. It's not super glossy. It's going to keep things waterproof. It's going to keep the wood heat resistant and cold resistance. If you're using like a coaster for beverages, you want to make sure. Yeah, acrylic, the air assist on acrylic sometimes will actually um, increase the heat that the acrylic is actually dealing with, which makes things a little bit harder to actually use. So sometimes air assist on acrylic will really mess with the design. But again, all about trial and error, right? Yeah, that's a good point. Just got to turn the air down and play with it like that. So yeah, we'll be playing with the air assist on the next live stream. Yeah, actually, that's a great idea. Yeah, that's perfect. Next live stream, we will. Thanks for the idea, Nicholas. We'll do some cutting and engraving on this birch, and then we'll also do the same cutting and engraving on 3 millimeter acrylic. And we could just opaque acrylic, guys, because you can only engrave opaque acrylic and cut opaque acrylic. But opaque acrylic essentially cuts and engraves very similar to the 3 millimeter birch. It's very similar power settings, but you have different effects, right? On the wood, you're going from more of like a beige to a dark brown or black with the engraving, and on the opaque acrylic, we'll actually be using black acrylic for the next live stream. It'll go from a black to, if you engrave on it, it'll go from a grayish white on the engraved parts. So that'll actually create like a really cool design as well. So that's what we can do on the next live stream. We can cut. We'll create hexagonal designs, essentially coasters, but we'll pick a different design than this, and we'll cut them out with air assist, and we'll also cut them out and engrave the acrylic and also the birch. So thank you for the idea. We will definitely be adding that for the next live stream. That's what a portion of it will be. We'll be playing with some opaque acrylic. So we have about 14 to 10 minutes left on this engraving. We're going to finish it up with some of the gloss, and then we're going to call it a night. I've actually never used dual color acrylic, but I imagine it would work just fine as long as it's opaque. You would just have to dial in your engraving settings to make sure that you're engraving deep enough to show the second color underneath. So we're about 70% done. We can check out the gSender simulation or the visualization here. About 11 minutes on the estimator. Could be off by a little bit, but last time it was pretty accurate. So I believe this time it should be pretty close. So 10 more minutes. Guys, if you have any other questions, ask them now, or we will be saying our goodbyes in about 10 minutes. We're just going to finish this up. We're going to give it a bit of gloss, show it off to the camera, and we're going to be calling it a night. So today we kind of went over using the masking tool in gSender or in LightBurn, went over using center point as our origin. We dealt with a few user errors that we were able to troubleshoot thanks to the chat. We were able to do two different styles of setting our origin point for engraving a circular object. Thank you, Jack, for joining us. It's super entertaining to have you guys in the chat. Even I learned things about gSender and everything just by the way you guys are chatting, because you guys have a lot of knowledge and experience to even grow the community as well. So I do enjoy you guys. You guys are awesome. Thanks for joining us. I hope you guys join us on our next stream in 2 weeks, next 2 Thursdays. It's every other Thursday. So gSender was able to determine it was a laser job to do a QL render and change the spindle to laser override by looking at G code file. I manually toggled the spindle / laser toggle, but after that, it was able to create the visualization for the laser job. And yeah, so I did manually toggle the laser on in settings and then in the bottom cursor. All right. Thanks for joining us, Jim. Thank you so much. Good night. Catch you on the next one. We're about 10 minutes away. We got 8 minutes on the job. We'll be 2 minutes to finish it up with the gloss, and then we're going to be calling it a night as well. Thank you guys so much. Really do appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. You guys kept things entertaining. You guys were helping me remember things. It was a great stream. Getting more and more comfortable. Enjoying these streams a little bit more every time we do them. So we'll just keep it going. We'll just keep the momentum going. We can watch the laser for the last little bit. Seven more minutes on the estimator. Yeah, that'll be cool. If Ninter, if you want to send some scrap acrylic my way, I think that would be cool for the stream. Doing some 2-color acrylic stuff, we can see the way it engraves, and hopefully we can make some cool out of it. Yeah, just send in a ticket. Send in a ticket. Just make sure you include the word laser in the ticket, and then it'll get sent automatically to me. We can have that stuff done. Have you experimented with top materials over leather? I actually have not. I've only engraved real leather. You only want to engrave genuine leather. Fake leather can produce toxic fumes depending on what materials they're made out of, and you really don't want to take that chance. So yes, but I have it engraved and tried to cut leather. The problem with cutting leather is, yeah, like you said, it seems to shrink when trying to cut because of the extreme heat. Starts to affect the leather, and then the leather starts to crinkle up. Um, but no, yeah. So I haven't done any leather work, but also that might be a cool project for the future. So what you're asking is putting something over the leather so that you don't get the scorch marks when trying to cut or engrave. Um, am I getting that correctly? So I've only engraved or tried to cut directly onto genuine leather. So I haven't tried to do any leather optimization. But again, that could be a cool project that we do next time. So the driver itself on so when you hit the button on your LightBurn or on your long mill controller, when you hit the e-stop, the emergency button on your longboard controller, it will not automatically shut off your laser. So if as long as your USB from your longboard is plugged into your computer, um, as long as your USB is plugged into your longboard from your computer, your Arduino will still be getting power. And the Arduino is the actual thing in the controller that is sending out the signal to the laser. So if it is an emergency, you have to shut off your long mill controller, and you also have to shut off your laser driver. So that would be your shut off protocol. You would have to shut off both because even if your long mill controller is off, your Arduino is still getting power from the USB cable coming from your laptop. Therefore, it will still be able to send a on signal to your laser driver, and that could really be dangerous. So yeah, so you hit the emergency stop button, and then you turn off your long mill driver, or you would turn off your power bar that your long mill driver is connected to. You could also unplug your signal wire that's going into your computer because then the laser is no longer getting a signal from anywhere, and that would automatically turn it off. But yes, turning off the long mill controller does not automatically stop your laser driver from receiving a signal to turn on. So that you do want to be aware of. You do want to stay safe. So yeah, you want to turn those off independently somehow, whether it's a power bar that's powering both, or just shutting it off, or just removing the USB that's sending the signal. Yeah, or use the actual interlock. Yes, 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 yes. That's why it was made. Tons of safety features on the driver. You can wire a secondary e-stop coming from your interlock, and then just shut that. You can hit both e-stops, one for your long mill, one for your driver, or you can do it. You can do some wiring, like you can wire them in series so that your e-stop will turn off both things. That's a good. Thanks for reminding me on that, Nicholas. That is what your interlock was made for you to add external switches. because your long mill or your laser driver will not turn on unless your interlock connector is actually closed. So you can wire switches to close that externally, and there you can wire an external e-stop. So we are just about finishing up here. I am going to be I'm going to try and do the glossing over here just so you guys can actually see what's happening. No, that's all right. I'll just put it down there. If we could switch this camera to primary, because then we could just put this camera.
Actually, you can just remove it.
Yeah.
No, because of the
Oh, the audio. No, that's not a big deal. All right. Awesome. So our project has been completed. I will show you guys what it looks like. So yeah, that looks awesome. That's what we wanted. We wanted more detail. Wanted it to look a lot better. This one got unplugged. Oh, okay. One sec. Just a bit of technical difficulties. But yeah, that's what it looks like. And then we will just be putting a bit of gloss on it. Do they just turn off? 1 second while we figure this out. We'll be right back. Batteries there? On both? Can we do webcam? All right. Hey guys. Uh, our camera batteries died, so uh, we'll be using our webcams for the next 5 minutes before we end the stream. So I think we only need the one here.
okay, you don't need this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna make this a solo cam. I'm gonna make this a solo cam. So guys, we're just gonna finish up the engraving here, and then we're gonna call it a night. So thank you guys for staying with us. We're just gonna be using a paintbrush and some of this gloss, and we're just going to really try to get it into the grain. Always be charging. ABC, baby. We actually have signs around the shop that say ABC, but they're for the wireless drills or the cordless drills. But yes, always be charging. But we're really just gonna paint this in. Really want the finish. Want to waterproof it. It's gonna heat proof it. It's gonna Protect the wood from the cold beverages. Want to get the sides too. I'm going to flip it upside down. I'm going to do the bottom. And then I'm going to redo both layers. And then that's it. You have these custom coasters with the paper outline. This is such a repeatable job. You can change the design, but keep the shape the same. And you can have a mini production line just going. Again, just want to thank you guys for joining us. Thank you to the CNC team, always working in the background. Thank you to you for joining us in the live stream. If you purchase any of our products, thank you for the support. Even if you just enjoy what we do, but you're not a customer, we still appreciate your support. I want to thank the software development team led by Chris, our CTO, who just keep upgrading the software aspect of our company and making things more enjoyable and easier to use for not just the customer, but for even us who work here and who use everything. I really do love gSender Edge. We pinned the comment in the chat so that you guys can check out the forum explaining what's changed on gSender Edge and what it's better at, and what are the upgrades and where to download it. So if you guys liked the visualizations of the laser, you like using the outline design with the laser on, definitely check out that link. It's on our forum for gSender Edge. All right, I'm just going to do the back one last time. One last one on the front. Oh, congratulations, Jack. Thank you for sending in your projects. Thanks for being part of the community. It's the least we can do to kind of show you guys our appreciation. Our marketing team really does enjoy running these competitions and these the free giveaways. It really is just a fun way to interact with the customer and see what people are making. So that's awesome. All right. That is going to be it for us today. So, yeah, if you're cutting and you want the edges of your material to be kind of to finish a little better, you can use masking tape. it will cut right through the masking tape, and then it will hopefully protect the surface or the edges. So you have to do less finishing when you're running that high power cut job. But yeah, that's going to be the last question answered for today. Thank you so much, Nicholas, Jack, Fundamental, Jack in the shop. You guys are awesome. Thanks for entertaining. Thanks for everybody who joined, who watched. You guys are the best. We appreciate your support. 2 weeks from now, let me grab the date for you guys. Same time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be back live. It's going to be September the 29th. September the 29th. Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be back here. We'll be playing with some black opaque acrylic. We'll be doing some cuts and some engraves with the air assist on the birch. And yeah, we'll just be playing with LightBurn and the new gSender Edge, and we'll be just having a good time. So thank you guys so much for joining us. You guys have a great, great, great night. Yes, we're going to be washing our hands. Don't want to get this stuff on your actual hands. We're wearing gloves. Always wear your protective equipment when working in the shop, your safety glasses, your gloves, everything you need. Good ventilation, fire suppression. No project is worth your health. And on that note, we're going to call this an end of stream. So you guys have a great night. You guys are all the best, and we'll chat and see you guys soon.